Most men have no idea what is actually happening when a woman pulls away after intimacy. They assume it means something went wrong. They assume she is unhappy with them, with the connection, or with what just took place between them. They lie in the dark, replaying every moment, searching for the mistake they must have made. But what if I told you that what she is doing has almost nothing to do with you at all? And that the men who understand what is actually driving it walk away from those moments feeling closer to her, not more confused. Today, that changes. I have spent years in research studying female emotional psychology, attachment behavior, and the science of how women process intimacy. And the pattern I return to again and again is this one: the pulling away, the quiet retreat. She is protecting a heart that found the connection very meaningful and does not yet know whether it is safe to show you that. Here's the part that changes behavior, because understanding the mechanism is only useful if it changes what you do. When she pulls away after intimacy, the worst response, and the most common one, is to mirror her, to grow quiet because she is quiet, to create distance because she has created distance, to protect yourself because she appears to be protecting herself. What this looks like from her side is, the moment she became vulnerable, he withdrew. And that confirms every fear that was already driving her withdrawal in the first place. The research on what securely attached partners do in these moments is consistent and clear. They remain present without being intrusive. They offer warmth without pressure. They do not require her to explain herself. They do not interpret her silence as rejection. They simply stay, calm, available, unhurried, until she is ready to return. Dr. Sue Johnson, the primary developer of emotionally focused therapy and author of Hold Me Tight, dedicated her career to understanding exactly this kind of moment. Her research described the pivotal point in attachment dynamics as the moment when one partner becomes vulnerable, and the other partner's response either confirms or repairs the underlying fear. A calm, steady, unpressured presence is one of the most powerful things you can offer. Her work, which transformed couples therapy worldwide before her passing in 2024, makes this point again and again. What people need most in their most vulnerable moments is not solutions. It is a steady, unafraid presence. For men at your stage of life, this is not difficult. You have already spent years learning that silence doesn't need to be filled. That discomfort doesn't require immediate resolution. That presence is its own form of communication. And the misreading costs men, particularly men at your stage of life, some of the most meaningful connection they could otherwise have. Stay with me, because once you understand what is actually happening inside her in that moment, everything shifts. Hello, and welcome back. I have spent years in research at the intersection of female psychology, neuroscience, and relationship dynamics. On this channel, we deal in science, in honesty, and in the kind of clarity that most relationship content never bothers to offer. No games, no manipulation, just truth. And today's truth is one of the most important I can share with you, because it speaks directly to something that happens in real relationships between real people, often in the quiet hours after real intimacy. And it is almost universally misunderstood. So let's begin. If you're a man in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, you have likely encountered this moment more than once. Something genuine happens between you and a woman. The closeness is real. The warmth is real. And then, sometimes within minutes, sometimes the next morning, she becomes quiet. She creates distance. She is present physically, but something has retreated. And the story your mind tells you is immediate and almost always the same. Something is wrong. She regrets it. It meant more to me than it did to her. I misread everything. That story is not just painful. It is, in the majority of cases, factually incorrect. Here is what the research actually shows. Female withdrawal after intimacy is not primarily a response to the man. It is a response to her own internal state. And that internal state is driven by neurochemistry, attachment history, and a set of deeply wired emotional self-protection mechanisms that activate most strongly precisely when a woman feels something real. Read that again. The withdrawal tends to be strongest when the connection is most meaningful. Most men over 50 have spent decades interpreting silence as rejection and distance as disinterest. And that interpretation, however understandable, is causing them to pull back, grow cold, or emotionally disappear at the exact moment when what she actually needs is calm, steady, unhurried presence. Understanding what is driving her behavior is not just interesting, it changes everything about how you show up. Let's start at the biological level, because the science here is both surprising and deeply clarifying. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, plays a central role in how women experience intimacy before, during, and after sex. A 2025 study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior, which measured oxytocin in 49 couples during natural sexual encounters in their own homes, found that women's oxytocin levels were highest before sex and again approximately 40 minutes after, and that partners' levels showed signs of synchronization during the post-sex period. This hormonal alignment in the time after intimacy appears to support the feelings of closeness and bonding that many couples experience. But here is what this same science reveals about vulnerability. Oxytocin is not simply a feel-good hormone. It is a social bonding chemical, and it operates by opening people to connection. Research shows that oxytocin reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, creating a window of lowered defensiveness and genuine emotional openness. During intimacy, this means she is less guarded, more present, and more exposed than she is at almost any other time. And then the encounter ends. Ordinary awareness returns. The nervous system begins its quiet recalibration. For women who carry any history of emotional hurt, that return from openness to ordinary life can express itself as a need for brief, internal space. She is not retreating from you. Her nervous system is processing the experience of having been genuinely close to you. There is a profound difference. Biology sets the stage. Psychology explains the behavior. And there are 3 distinct psychological mechanisms driving female withdrawal after intimacy, each of which has nothing to do with how she feels about you. The first reason, the vulnerability hangover. Dr. Brené Brown, research professor at the University of Houston, spent over 2 decades studying vulnerability, shame, and human connection. One of her most widely recognized concepts is what she called the vulnerability hangover, the feeling that sweeps over us after we share something deeply meaningful with another person. Minutes, hours, or days later, a wave of regret and self-exposure washes in. What did I just reveal? Am I safe? Was that too much? For women, sexual and emotional intimacy is one of the most exposure-rich experiences that exists. She allowed you to see her, not just physically, but emotionally. She was present, unguarded, and real. And in the quiet that follows, the self-protective mind begins its audit. That internal questioning produces withdrawal, not from you, from the rawness of having been fully seen. If you are a man in your 40s or 50s who has experienced this, a woman warm and present during intimacy, then quiet and seemingly distant afterwards, what you were witnessing was almost certainly a vulnerability hangover. She was not retreating from you. She was processing the enormity of having been that open. The second reason, attachment style activation. This is perhaps the most clinically important piece of this conversation, and it is the one almost nobody explains clearly. Attachment theory, developed by John Bowlby and extensively built upon by Dr. Mary Ainsworth, describes the deep psychological patterns that govern how we seek and respond to closeness in adult relationships. Research across multiple studies consistently finds that approximately 40% of adults carry an insecure attachment pattern, either anxious or avoidant, and these patterns activate most powerfully in moments of genuine intimacy. For a woman with an anxious attachment style, post-intimacy withdrawal is often driven by fear of abandonment. Paradoxically, the closer she has felt, the more terrifying the possibility of loss becomes. She pulls away, unconsciously, to test whether you will notice, whether you will reach for her, whether the connection was real. For a woman with an avoidant attachment style, post-intimacy withdrawal is driven by something different, a deep-wired discomfort with closeness itself. Not because she doesn't want it, but because closeness has historically felt overwhelming or unsafe. When she has been genuinely close with you, her nervous system sounds an internal alarm. Distance is how she regulates that alarm. It is not rejection. It is self-regulation. Neither of these responses has anything to do with your value, your desirability, or the quality of what happened between you. They are old patterns, sometimes decades old, that activate automatically in the presence of real intimacy. The third reason, the fear of being too much. There is a third dynamic that is less clinical and more cultural, but no less real. Many women, particularly women at the stage of life where relationships carry genuine weight, have absorbed a powerful implicit message. Wanting too much is dangerous. Needing too much makes you vulnerable to loss. Feeling too deeply exposes you to humiliation. So in the aftermath of intimacy, when she has felt a great deal, she pulls back from that feeling. She creates distance from her own emotional response, not from you, in order to protect herself from wanting something that might not be returned. She is not telling you the connection wasn't meaningful. She is protecting a heart that found the connection very meaningful and does not yet know whether it is safe to show you that. Here is the part that changes behavior, because understanding the mechanism is only useful if it changes what you do. When she pulls away after intimacy, the worst response, and the most common one, is to mirror her, to grow quiet because she is quiet, to create distance because she has created distance, to protect yourself because she appears to be protecting herself. What this looks like from her side is, the moment she became vulnerable, he withdrew, and that confirms every fear that was already driving her withdrawal in the first place. The research on what securely attached partners do in these moments is consistent and clear. They remain present without being intrusive. They offer warmth without pressure. They do not require her to explain herself. They do not interpret her silence as rejection. They simply stay, calm, available, unhurried, until she is ready to return. Dr. Sue Johnson, the primary developer of emotionally focused therapy and author of Hold Me Tight, dedicated her career to understanding exactly this kind of moment. Her research described the pivotal point in attachment dynamics as the moment when one partner becomes vulnerable and the other partner's response either confirms or repairs the underlying fear. A calm, steady, unpressured presence is one of the most powerful things you can offer. Her work, which transformed couples therapy worldwide before her passing in 2024, makes this point again and again. What people need most in their most vulnerable moments is not solutions. It is a steady, unafraid presence. For men at your stage of life, this is not difficult. You have already spent years learning that silence doesn't need to be filled. That discomfort doesn't require immediate resolution. That presence is its own form of communication. The steadiness that comes naturally to you at this point in life is precisely the quality that can transform these moments from confusion into connection. You do not need to ask what is wrong. You do not need to fix anything. You need only to remain warm, undemanding, and unafraid of the quiet. I want to ask you something directly now, and I want you to sit with it honestly. How many times in your past, in relationships that mattered, in moments that held real potential, did you interpret her withdrawal as rejection and respond by pulling away yourself? How many times did the distance between you widen not because she wanted it to, but because both of you were quietly waiting for the other to close it? How many connections quietly dissolved in the space between two people who both felt something real, but neither knew what the silence on the other side actually meant? Let that settle, not with regret, but with the clarity that comes from finally having the complete picture. Because from this point forward, you see it differently. This is not a failure of sensitivity that belongs to younger men. Men at your stage of life, Men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s often carry decades of accumulated misreadings, years of interpreting emotional caution as disinterest, of treating distance as a verdict rather than a signal, of walking away from women who were, in their own quiet way, hoping you would stay. That pattern ends when the understanding changes, and the understanding changes today. If you are a man in your 50s or 60s navigating intimacy at this stage of life, I want you to hear this clearly. The women you are connecting with now are not 22. They are women who have also accumulated years, who have also been hurt, who have also learned to protect themselves from the specific kind of pain that comes from wanting too much and losing it anyway. Their withdrawal after intimacy is not carelessness. It is caution, hard-won and deeply human. And you, with your earned steadiness, your practiced patience, your genuine lack of urgency, are uniquely equipped to be exactly what those moments require. You are not competing with younger men on speed. You outclass them on something far more rare, the ability to remain present and warm in the silence without needing it to be anything other than what it is. That quality, that calm, non-reactive availability, is what attachment researchers identify as the core behavior of a securely attached partner. And it is what women at this stage of life are most acutely seeking. So the next time she pulls away after something real passes between you, do not interpret it. Do not catastrophize. Do not mirror the distance. Stay quietly, warmly, without agenda. Let your presence be the answer to the question she is unconsciously asking. Is it safe to have felt what I just felt? The answer, from you, is yes, and she will feel that answer before you ever say a word. Let me close with something concrete because clarity without application is just philosophy. The first is to name the moment without pressure. If she becomes quiet after intimacy, a single, unhurried sentence, not a question, not a demand, can change everything. Something as simple as, "You don't have to say anything. I'm just glad you're here." That sentence removes the pressure to perform emotional coherence when she has none. It signals that her silence is not costing her anything, and it communicates without explanation that you are safe. The second is to stay physically present without requiring engagement. Don't get up and leave the room. Don't pick up your phone. Don't manufacture busyness to protect your own feelings. Simply remain. Your physical presence in that quiet is not passive. It is one of the most active things you can do. It says, "I am still here. The closeness didn't scare me away." The third is to resist the interpretation. The internal story your mind constructs about her withdrawal. She regrets it. She's pulling back. I've misread everything. Is almost always wrong. And it shapes your behavior in ways that confirm her fear rather than dissolving it. When you feel that story beginning, return to what the science tells you. She is processing. Her nervous system is recalibrating. The withdrawal is a response to the depth of what she felt, not the shallowness of it. That reframe, practiced consistently, will change the entire emotional architecture of your intimate relationships. Here is what I want you to carry out of this conversation. When she pulls away after intimacy, it is not a verdict on you. It is not a signal that the connection wasn't real. In most cases, it is the opposite. Evidence that what happened between you actually reached her in a place she is not used to being reached. Your job in that moment is not to fix anything, explain anything, or perform anything. Your job is to be the steady, unhurried, genuinely unafraid presence that she has not always been lucky enough to find. Men at your stage of life have something most men don't. The lived experience to know that silence is not the enemy, that closeness takes time to settle, and that the most meaningful connections are not the ones that sprint. They are the ones that breathe. Be the man who breathes. She will find her way back. And when she does, she will find you still there. And that will tell her everything she needed to know. I'll see you in the next one.